Hello and welcome back to the Conscious Man 7 podcast. I am your host Todd Cave and this is podcast 10. On this episode, I was a return guest on the Boundless Authenticity Podcast by Jehan Sattaur, where we talked about the cult of religion, dogma and the death cult, and we talked about some of the deeds and acts that religion has caused man to do. And I would just want to say apologies for a bit of echoing on my side. And in fact, this episode was the episode that caused me to buy a new microphone. So please bear with the sound, but the information in it is solid and it is very thought-provoking. And I'm very sure that you're going to like this episode and it's going to cause you to do further research, even if it is to prove me wrong. But I bring the receipts to the table. So sit back and enjoy the show.
When truth is blurred by lies and misinformation, perception becomes reality. What will you perceive your reality to be?
Liberate your fears and walk with me.
Sit down and meditate. Connect with your soul.
Be a monster and then learn how to control it.
You got to be willing to do the work.
So it really goes really deep in terms of words and etymology and what they mean. So this is why it is really hard to really crack the matrix, because there's so many levels and layers to it, you know?
Thanks for tuning in to the Boundless Authenticity Podcast. I am back with Todd Cave, and today we are talking about dogma and the death cult. Todd, who runs the world?
Hey Jehan, thanks for having me back. Great to be on your platform, and today we can talk about some very interesting stuff, and it's going to be like a sequel to the things that we spoke about in the last two podcasts. And to answer your question, who rules the world? From my investigation, it looks like the Anunnaki and their royal families are bloodlines, like the kings, the queens, the presidents, the central bankers, the deep state. All of these bloodlines are theirs, because as the Sumerian kings list said, and the kingship was lowered from heaven to earth. And heaven just means the sky. And as I had said before, they basically merged their DNA with our cousin, Homo sapien sapien, and created us, Homo sapien. And they have been systematically doing things to dumb us down, make us sick, through big pharma and stuff, and also through various cults, which in reality are religions. And we're going to talk a little bit about religions today, and a lot of people are not going to like what I have to say, but as I say, give me the truth no matter the cost.
I hear you on that. And so if the listeners have not listened to the last episode, Cults, Brainwashing and Mind Control, where I go into the technicalities of the subconscious mind, what is brainwashing, what is mind control, what's the differences between the two, how do they overlap. It's a perfect segue into listening to this episode. So when you get done listening to this and you want to know, oh my God, what actually is brainwashing, what actually is mind control, go and listen to that episode, because we are about to shock you. So, in keeping with the shocking nature of this information, how the heck did you even come across all of this?
Well, I could only describe it in a way that I was kind of led to it, but I didn't know at the time that I was being led to it, because from a youngster, I was always questioning narratives, to be fair, right? And I had briefly said that when I was a kid, my father went through a phase where he was looking for the truth, and he ended up, going to some Islamic centers and reading their doctrine, and he brought home Islamic doctrine in the house. And while he was reading these things and telling me, my subconscious picked up these things, and I guess you can say it sowed seeds of doubt. And then when you fast forward to 6 years ago, when I had my surgery on my foot, because I had so much time because I was on crutches for 15 months, as a way to cope, I just started to read books and watch documentaries. And then I found a very good YouTube channel called The Global Witness. And he basically, all I could say is he just blew my mind, because he was an anon and he shared some very high level scriptural information, talking about the Anunnaki, talking about all different stuff, like how they're intertwined into government, the actual system, the religion of money. And, through him sharing, I went and did my own reading to confirm, and that led me to several different other YouTubers, because at the time, YouTube 6 years ago was full of truth seekers. And I'm not one of these kind of people that would just say, okay, well, Jehan said this and that's the gospel truth. I actually bought the books, or I got the audiobooks, read the books, and my mind was shattered. And at first I was like, all right, that's just one book. But as you start to read more and more books, you start to see a bit of a pattern, right? And even like at that time, David Icke was on YouTube, and he, oh my gosh, was like a bull in a china shop, you know what I mean? He just broke everything, when you actually listen to him. So I guess you could say that because of what I was going through at the time with my surgery and losing almost everything, that I was just being put through a refinement period to be able to cleanse myself of all the negative subconscious beliefs, energy, and self-sabotage, through one thing or the next. And I just kept reading and building. And then when you fast forward to the last 3 years, I got introduced to psychedelics, plant medicine. And that completely changed the game for me, where like I started to really understand about chakras, cleaning my chakras, doing meditation, and also connecting to source in ways where, even before we were recording, I said, the voice told me this, because that's the only way I can describe it so people can understand when you start to connect to your higher self, right? Like, it's almost like a voice just comes into my head, and I have a full-blown conversation, sometimes full in my head, or sometimes me speaking verbally and answering back myself verbally. So it would look like I'm a bit crazy, but because I've done so much work on myself and with plant medicine, opening up those higher realms of consciousness, levels of consciousness, I've been able to tap into something that just guides me now, where people that I meet in my life now are for a purpose. Books that I read are found upon me at the time when I need them the most. So I would say basically guided now,
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, sometimes when you say it's a voice, people misinterpret that and think that you are crazy, when in reality, what you're just talking about is an auditory thought stream. And it has to reach you somewhere, because the subconscious mind is the mind of God. It's the mind of all things. And I think a lot of people don't get that. But the phenomenon that you're describing could happen to anybody just any day of the week. You could be riding on the bus and you could just be staring out the window at some bushes or something on the roadside, and then you have a moment of clarity, and then you start to hear things that you don't know. But most people want to shut that off. As soon as something like that starts to happen, they just, I wonder what I'll eat for dinner later, and it goes away, So most people aren't in tune to that. But it is safe to say that the majority of people that would be listening to this right now are awake and ready to hear what we have to say. So my next question is, what is religion and why is it there?
Okay, good question. So before I answer what is religion, I want to go on a tangent. Then you ask me that question again, and we will compare what religion is. So basically, we have to ask ourselves first, what is a cult, right? And the definition of a cult is a group or movement held together by a shared commitment to a charismatic leader or ideology. It has a belief system that has the answers to all of life's questions and offers a special solution to be gained only by following the leaders' rules. Now, on close examination of organized religion as a whole, we see that they are based on dogma, which is unquestionable and is held together by various rituals that confirm adherence. Now, when you compare religions side by side, we have to see, are they similar? Is a religion a cult? So let us describe some of the attributes of a cult. A cult is focused on a living leader with its members displaying excessive zealousness, questionable commitment. The group is preoccupied with bringing in new members. The group is preoccupied with making money, and questioning, doubting, or dissent is discouraged and even punished, and initiates have to perform a ritual to become a member. Now, these are the attributes of a cult. Now, let us look at a religion, organized religion. Now, a religion is focused on a leader with its members displaying excessive zealousness and unquestioning commitment. It sends out missionaries to convert the unsaved. It has collection bowls always at the end or during its sermons and services. Questioning, expressing doubt, and going against the rules isn't tolerated and is even punished. And new converts must undertake a ritual or rituals to confirm membership. So, when we put those two comparisons of a cult and a religion side by side, they're actually almost interchangeable. So, if you ask me what is a religion, I would say, well, what is a cult? Because I think a religion is a cult, And this is why its followers are very erratic. They can be very extremist. And just like the other two religions that we have in the world, which are government and money, you see that on social media now, you have liberals versus conservatives. In the UK, we have Labour versus Conservative. Same thing. And you see now that each person or each follower of either the right or the left, to keep it simple, they will basically have this overzealousness and they are zealots towards their leader and their ideology. So what's dominated a lot of talk, in the past few months, was abortion. For me, I don't have an opinion on it because, I don't have a woman pregnant, nor am I a woman, so why am I going to throw my hand in the ring? But let's look at the behavior of the two sides. One is saying that you should be able to have an abortion regardless, okay? And the other one is saying, no, you have to protect life. I think there's probably a bit in the middle between the two, but because they're such extreme polar opposites of each other, they are basically cultish in their behavior because it is the religion of the right and the religion of the left. And when you look back at what they're focused on, unquestioning commitment between the two, right? Doubting and going against the rules isn't tolerated. You get cancelled, right? It's the same thing in religion. So I was doing a wee bit of looking at the Mormon religion, and when you dissent, you're actually publicly shamed, by the members, the leader, or leaders. I think there's 7 leaders that live in this massive house, and they're billionaires. Anyway, but they get questioned, I think it's once a month or something like that. Did you have sex with someone that's not your partner? Are you wearing your specific Mormon underwear? And all kinds of personal questions, man. And so your faith and your following has to be unquestionable. And that is exactly like the religion that we have of government. And This is why it is very difficult to communicate with either person on the right, the left, Islam, Christianity, or Judaism. They're all the same. They all have a dogmatic view on the world. And this is the reason why we have such a polarized world and society today.
Right. Makes sense. Well, makes sense to me. But, talking to somebody that believes Donald Trump is going to come and save us all, that he's the new Messiah, is a very difficult task to undertake. The same thing goes for talking to somebody that is obsessed with left or right, blue or red. You just can't do it. And they have these parts of their mind, these compartments in their mind that is dedicated to this cult following, that they just cannot see what you are saying. I mean, how many people have we spoken to that they just kind of, their eyes glaze over and they go right back to the same thing? And they would ask you a question, they will ask you a question specifically. What is a cult? What about this religion? What about this political ideology? And you would tell them, where to look for it. And they'll just be like, okay, but Donald Trump's going to save us all. Or Joe Biden's going to save us all, So
it is mad when you really think of it, because when you go back into history, because one of the things that I really like about history is that you get to not only learn about what happened in the past, but you learn about yourself, because you are very much connected to the past, in the sense that the past has created the present, and your present is directly related to the past. And when you go back into these ancient texts and tablets and very high-level books, it's just the same thing, where these Anunnaki came here. They set up these systems of control for economics. So we know that one of the first real cults was created in Babylon from Marduk, who was also known as Moloch and Baal. We can touch on him in a little bit. And then you had the systems of governance, because the Anunnaki, when they lowered their kingship to Earth, they had like tiers in government. So like Anu was known, his number was 60, Enlil was 50, Enki was 40, and I think Marduk was 20, right? So you had these levels as well. And then when you look at religions like the Hindu religion, because they're Anunnaki creation as well, you see that the Brahmins came from the north, and they came in from Russia and all those Stan countries. And they were of a fairer complexion. They were basically white, right? And at that time, the Indian subcontinent was inhabited by the Dravidians. And they pushed the Dravidians further and further down south. This is why you see that when you go down south into like, even as far as Sri Lanka and the southern tip of India, the people are very, very dark skinned, and some have woolly hair, almost like black people here, And in that Hindu religion, that's where we know the first racism came from, because it was through a caste system. So the Brahmins were the religious types. They were like the Pharisees in Judaism. And then they pushed, they created a system where they're the ones that control all the information, right? So they're the ones that would end up managing the government, the affairs, because everybody reported to them. Because at that time it was not secular. The religion had basically was the government, and still is to some degree, but not a great, to be fair. And you see that system, a caste system, a tier system, throughout all the religions. Then when you look at Judaism, now you had the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the Levites, then you had the Gentiles, right? So you see then you look at in Islam, you have the mullahs, you have the imams, then you have the general followers. It's all of this tier system. Then we look at government. You have a prime minister or president, you have senators or parliamentarians, then you have the aristocracy, then you have the working class man. It's all the same thing, right? And that is the reason why it is very, very difficult to communicate with people that are in a cult. And I use that word broadly because that would include the religious folks, it would include the folks that follow organized religion, and then those people that just follow the new thing, the next thing, you know what I mean? One time it was Iraq, and now it's climate change. The next thing will be war with Ukraine, then it was this, and you know what I mean? It's just the next thing, right? That's a cult as well. So this is why it is very, very difficult to communicate with any of these cult members, because religion comes from the word religare, which means to hold and to bind, and it holds and binds the minds of its followers. And all of these members are cult members, which is why their attributes and behaviors are exactly the same. Why would I don't understand how someone can think that Trump is going to save America. Well, let's not forget it was his Project Warp Speed that brought in the jabs. And the left at the time was saying, oh, I would never trust any jabs brought in by that guy. He's a fraud. As soon as he's left, oh, these jabs are the best thing since sliced bread. They will cure you. You'll be safe. Life will be back to normal. Boom, 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 boom. And then what ended up happening? Complications, people getting sick. You got to take more jabs. Now in Canada, they're telling you need a jab every 2 months, right? So where's the logic here, right? Then you got these members now, these cult members that follow the new thing, where now it's like, you know what I mean, the economy. Okay, the economy's in shit, yeah. But that was only now to distract us from what's going on in Ukraine. And then Ukraine thing was only to distract us from these jabs. And then the jabs thing was only to remind us, to make us forget that we're slaves. You know what I mean, with the lockdowns. So when does it end? And the answer is, it does not end until we say no. And this is why me and you are people that are in the minority, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you just hit the nail on the head. It is the ability to say no. And there is hardly anyone who is not a part of a cult, and hardly anyone who is sober. And when I say sober, to all the people out there saying, oh, well, I don't use drugs. Well, if you drink caffeine in any form, or use energy drinks, or you are stuffing your face with sugary drinks and sugary foods, then you're not as sober as you think. Like, you are having chemical reactions in your body that are taking you outside of your sovereignty, you know, and people don't realize that it's a cut that goes deep. The things that you put in your body really do have an impact on your ability to think clearly and make good choices. And it just seems like there's nobody out there that isn't involved in one thing or the other. And so, you know, everybody, especially if you take a place like America, where there's people driving on the road right now in America that are all messed up, and it is pharmaceutical drugs, you know, it's medication that they're prescribed for. So you have all of these people that are drunk or high or unaware, and they just can't think for themselves because they're impaired, you know? And we wonder why people don't seem to be waking up at such a fast rate. But all of that is by design, you know? Convince people that all the stuff that's fun is good for you, but it really keeps you dumb, sick, and fat, you know, and unable to think for yourself. So it's no wonder that we can't get through to as many people as we would like. And I think there's people like us that are on a phase where, you know, we went through new age stuff and psychology and all these different ways of thinking to reach the point where we realize, oh yeah, that is a cult too. And you got to break away from that. And not very many people make it that far.
It's true. It's true. And the main reason for that is that we, through religion, we have been led astray to worship false ideologies and to worship the not true God. And when you look at the ancient scripture, Christ used to actually say the mother, father, God, or the father, mother, right? It doesn't really matter, it's the same thing. And basically, what it is now is that God isn't a man. God is everything. God is both male and female. God is the fish, the sea, the wind, the sun. God is everything, right? And we have lost that understanding. And what you realize is that when a society turns its back on God, it turns its back not only on itself, but just all truth, and it just turns to outright debauchery, right? And a lot of people that may listen to this, that maybe not come into this information for the first, may struggle to understand that point. So what I'm going to try to do here now is that I'm going to try to create an equal set of scales of measurement for God, right, and people, so that it is very black and white. So we can agree that an apple seed cannot bear an orange tree, correct or not? And we can also agree that a bad person, a person that says bad things, has bad and negative thoughts, and does bad things is what you would be classified as a bad person, right or wrong?
Right.
Okay, so on the flip side, a good person would be described as a person that has good thoughts, speaks positively, and does good and positive actions. All right. So if we use those equal scales of measurement, because we know that an apple tree can't bear an orange, and we know that a good person doesn't have bad actions. So then let us look to see if God were to command its people to do homicide, genocide, democide, drive people to their lands, commit loads of acts of murder and bloodshed, would you say that that's a good God or a bad God, Jehan?
That is a weird freaking bad God, man.
So a God then that tells its followers to be kind, forgive, have compassion and kindness, go out and do good things into the world, would that be classified as a good God or a bad God?
That's what you would call a good one.
Good. No. Religion tells us that God, and it doesn't matter which religion, God is omnipotent, omnipresent, all-knowing, and God is loving, right? God does amazingly good things for his followers. So, we can talk specifically for the time being, although we will speak on Islam as well, but in terms of Judeo-Christianity, can anybody show me where in the Bible that Satan performs and instigates people to do bad things? And the answer is that I think from memory there are only 3 occasions in the entire Bible where Satan tells man to do bad things. Equally in the Quran, because the reason why I talk about Islam as well is that the Abrahamic religions account for at least 50% in total, just under 50% of the entire population. And we have to include Islam in there as well, and people will see for good reason. Now, as a person that has really delved into Islam and its doctrine, I can tell you that I have never found in the actual Islamic scriptures an time when the devil has commanded us, the people, to do bad things. But what I have found is that God and Allah command its followers to do acts of genocide, rape, and theft, murder, and all sorts. So, Jehan, we're going to circle back to where we asked about good God or bad God. So if the God of the Jews, the God of the Christians, and the God of the Muslims commands their followers to do bad things. Are these good gods or bad gods?
Absolutely not.
Good. So the problem is that people will come and say, but Todd, you don't understand God how to do this. But hold on. Murder and rape and genocide, or murder, rape, and genocide, regardless of the reason, right? Because there's a saying that goes that, I'm trying to remember, people do bad things in the name of good, thinking that they're doing good things, but in reality, you can't change that it is a bad thing, right? I'm paraphrasing, but it's saying that goes exactly like that. So you can't come and tell me that God is good and he's telling his people to do these kind of things. So therefore, I conclude that the gods of all three Abrahamic religions is actually not God itself, it is Satan. Satan meaning the adversary. So it's not necessarily one God, because in like our previous podcast, I showed you that Enlil is the god of the Jews. I show you that Marduk is the god of the Talmudic Jews. Nanarsin is the god of the Muslims. And it appears that Enki is the god for the Roman Catholics, right? So now, and Christians, their god seems to fluctuate between Marduk and also Enlil, because there's more than one Satan, because it just means adversary, right? Now, let us go into some of the what's the right word to say it? Some of the acts that God has commanded his people to do in the name of good, right? So let's look at the Judaism and Christianity. And I'm going to tell people where to find these things so they can find them themselves, because I'm not telling people to believe what I say. I'm going to tell you where to want to look and see for yourself. So God endorses murder, rape, and pillage at Jabes Gilead. And you can find that in Judges chapter 21, verses 10 to 24. Again, more murder, and this time rape and pillage of the Mediantes in Numbers 31, verse 7 to 18, right? No, this one is actually kind of bad here. This one is in Deuteronomy. God endorses rape, right? Deuteronomy 20, verses 1 to 14, and also Deuteronomy 22, verses 28 to 29. No, God also endorses sex slavery. What would you imagine that? And you can find that in Exodus chapter 21, verses 7 to 11. More rape and plunder in Zechariah 14, verses 1 to 2. And he also tells his followers, kill the non-believers in 2 Chronicles chapter 15, verses 12 to 13. Now, kill the non-believers, right? That's kind of like what we have right now, where you don't subscribe to the newest thing, or you're not a liberal and Democrat, that you're just going to get murdered now, isn't it? Right? So as you can see, this is why I took my time to break down these religions, which are cults, to show you that religion has the same ethos and mentality as the government people, because they all follow the same cult. Now, let us go to Islam now, and we have some very similar things, some of which are a bit worse. We have murder and martyrdom and conquest. There's one verse where basically one guy is saying that he can't wait to be a martyr so he can come back to life and die again and keep murdering and come back again. And God tells him, my son, you will be rewarded in paradise. So for those that want to go and check the receipts, I'm going to give you some receipts here. This is in Sahih Bukhari, number 19, verse 111, or Sahih Bukhari, number 2797, or Sahih Muslim 126. It's the exact same story. Now, this one here is actually, a lot of people would say, but especially to some of the women, oh, Islam is the most feminist religion on earth, and Islam gave us women our rights. Okay, then let's examine that for a minute. So Muhammad affirms that a woman's silence is her consent for sex, right? So if you want to have sex with a girl and she's too afraid to tell you no, just take it away from her anyway. And that is halal by God. You can find that in Sahih Bukhari, number 5136. And what do we know? Sex slavery is actually permitted. Ain't that a shame? Ain't that a surprise? Where we had sex slaves in Exodus, right? Again, this is permitted in the Quran now. Quran, Surah 33, verse 50, and also Surah 4, verse 24. This one here is probably one of the worst. The God of Islam allows men to have sex with a girl at any age because it doesn't specify, because it talks specifically that you can have sex with her before the age of menstruation, right? So there's no number on it to tell you, well, at 3 months, you know what I mean? That's wrong, you know, it doesn't matter. So you can find that in Surah 65, verse 4. So that's in the Quran. Then Muhammad has sex with his childbred Aisha at 9 years old. He married her at 6 and consummated marriage at 9, right? Sahih Bukhari 5136. Now, any woman that's going to come and tell me that they have rights in that religion, well, this one is for you. Wives are the places for sowing your seed whenever and however you wish, right? I'm going to tell you where to find it, because don't believe me. This is in the Quran, Surah 2, verse 223. It also says that men are in charge of women, right? Notice, in charge of, like property, like cattle, right? That, and also men are allowed to strike their women. Wow, what do you know? That's probably why you don't say why there's a lot of domestic violence in Islam. So Quran, Surah 4, verse 34, and then to become a Muslim, you have to perform a ritual called reciting the Shahada, which is where you say that there's only one God but God, and Muhammad is his messenger, right? To confirm membership. But guess what? Like in a cult, it's free entrance to come in, but if you want to leave, you have to pay with your life, right? Just like a gang. You know, like gangs, mafia, they do blood rituals where they prick your finger to have the blood come out. So it's a blood ritual. And that if you snitch on the crew and you leave the mafia, the cult, the group, the gang, well, you pay with your life. It's the exact same thing in Islam. So then it took it was a bit long to go through all of that, but what I wanted to show people is that the exact mentality that is in organized religion is in government. The exact same religion is with the new thing, the how people worship money, how people worship the flesh. It is all because it started in organized religion, and this is why they're all false, right? This is why it is very difficult to communicate with people today, because they all are cult members in one form of cult or the other. And what it is now is that what is being offered to us, and I told you this before, is either a shit sandwich or a sandwich full of vomit. You pick your choice. You want a sandwich with freaking human excrement, or you want a sandwich full of human barf? Me, I want neither. And that is the reason why none of these religions, cults, and belief systems, 1, give you any empowerment, 2, free you, and 3, add any value in your life. Because they're only designed to, remember, religion holds and to bind. So you become a slave in perpetuity, you know?
Facts. And I love to call it the cult of global disempowerment, because that is exactly what it is. There's no way that you can figure this out and go back to being normal, because you realize that everything is a cult. You even have cults who eat vegetables and cults who eat only meat. And
Oh my gosh. It's true, you know.
You know, it's like you can't be a cult of the carnivore cult unless you eat grass-fed steak and sun your fucking butthole every day. It's like, when is it gonna end? Because it's just getting ridiculous now to where everything is a mentality, an identity that somebody has to adopt, and nobody knows who they are anymore. Nobody has values. I mean, we talk about this in our private conversations and stuff like that, but people are lacking in values.
100%. They lack zero integrity. And the thing is that because the Anunnaki have set up this system so well, right? It is almost impenetrable. Almost. And basically, I would describe people like you and I akin to Neo in Matrix. We are the one, right? There's several ones, which is similar to the Christ, right? Because the Christ just means the anointed one, you know? And the issue is that because the system is being set up on a lie, everything that comes from it has to be of a lie. And we've gotten so far away from the original lie that when you look at where we've come from, it's like this massive, massive void, this space that is like, huh? And you're looking at it, and because to describe it, well, this is only an audio podcast, but the way I would describe it is like, if you have a line that is vertical and you tilt it ever so slight, right? In the beginning, the line is going to be still very close to the truth. But as that other line gets longer and longer and longer and longer, it will go so far away from the truth. And we're at a point now where nothing makes sense. We're being told that men can have periods. We're being told that men can have babies. We're being told that a transgender guy can be woman of the year. And I'm kind of like scratching my head and say, okay, then we're being told now that, you know, the inflation isn't really inflation. It's just that things are getting more expensive. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Then you're being told that jabs save lives, but we see that there's a lot more damage being done from these jabs and the lockdowns that we had than anything else. We're being told that, you know, GMO food is the solution when not even insects would eat GMO foods. Because, like, if you put a GMO apple next to a normal apple, the GMO apple will stay there probably looking right the same way for the next 6 months, right? While the other apple, they done get devoured by the maggots and the flies and everything. So it's like we've come to a point where we're so far away from truth that nothing makes sense. And I think it was you that sent me the clip. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills, you know? Like, I kind of like, this is one of the reasons why I love living in Mexico, because I live in a very nice area, gated, have very, very few neighbors, and I live in sort of like in a bubble where I don't have much contact with people. And I'm very glad because of that, because it's difficult to share your consciousness, your light, your love, your energy with people that, you know what I mean, within like a few hours of getting to know them, you have to find out their job status, because that tells you everything about them. It's true. And what I'm realizing is that you can almost tell a person's job status by how they behave. It's just mad. Like, you have these repeat patterns of like lack of integrity. People can't be honest with you. People can't like deliver stuff when they say they can do it. People just like ghost you, you know what I mean? Just flop on you. And I can almost bet my bottom dollar that 9 out of 10 of those people are jabbed. So it's not really a coincidence that we live in the world that we live in, you know? And it's because people have lost all true identity of themselves. And the reason for that is that according to Ephesians 6, verse 12, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the higher realms. And when you look at all of these different texts and tablets, you see we have many different sources that make reference to a group of negative entities that own, run, and control this planet. And some of the names in various books are like the Archons in the Nag Hammadi, the fallen angels in the book of Enoch and the Bible, the Anunnaki in the Sumerian tablets, and the Jinn in the Quran. And when you put all these sources together, we deduce that these entities are not of this world. And they also appear to be interdimensional extraterrestrial beings, or at least astronauts from another planet, right? And today we can go into a little bit of detail of some of the things that we spoke on our first podcast. And one of the reasons why it's difficult for people to understand what is going on, or even understand some of this information, is that these Anunnaki gods have changed their names several times from different age, epoch, and religion. And from my observation, it seems to have been deliberately done to confuse us, which is why most people who follow any religion don't even know that they're worshiping extraterrestrial gods or Anunnaki gods in disguise. So, Enlil, Lord of Ir, Lord of Command, he was known as Jehovah, Yahweh, Amaru, Ashur, El Shaddai, amongst many other names. Enki, he was known as Poseidon to the Greeks. He was known as Neptune. He was known as Ahura Mazda for the Zoroastrians. He was also known as Ea to the Chaldeans from memory, Samael, and Ptah for the Egyptians, and also Nudimmud. Marduk, he was known as Bel or Baal. Now, if you notice the word Baal, and then you look at the word Bible, you can say Baal, Bible. Baal, Marduk, Baal, he seems to have been the chief instigator of the actual canonical Bible being put together. He was also known as Moloch to the Babylonians. And funnily, they used to sacrifice their children to him, which is similar to what we have now with this whole abortion thing. So you see, history just repeats itself, right? So all these abortions are actually sacrifices of children to Moloch. He was also known as Ra to the Egyptians, or Amun-Ra. This is why the word Amen comes from Amun or Amun. He was a sun deity, and when he slipped into the Bible and so that he could be venerated every time we say Amen. And he was also known as Horus. And then also here in Mesoamerica, for the Aztecs, he was known as Huitzilpochtli. That's difficult to pronounce this. Huitzilpochtli. Thoth was also known as Ningishida, Melchizedek, Hermes, Buddha, Quetzalcoatl, Kukulkan, or Viracocha. It's because of Thoth that we basically know a lot of the things that we know today, like some of the things I'm talking about, because he installed a synthetic Christ consciousness matrix. Because after the last cataclysm, he knew that this moment that we were having now was going to happen. And he's saying that it takes about 100,000 years for a civilization to come to high level of consciousness. So he installed a lot of these synthetic grids to help speed us up. So this is why he built the pyramids. This is why he put on a lot of the obelisks on the planet, which are all placed on ley lines to help magnify the earth to create like this, how we have the World Wide Web. So he wanted to try to replicate that, but for consciousness to help speed up our growth. And then you have Nanarsin. He was the moon god of Ur. He's also Allah, who was the chief instigator for the Ajiji that formed the rebellion against the Anunnaki. And he's also known as the Islamic god Allah or Allah. So you see, this is the reason why people today have such great difficulty to understand anything, because all they're doing is worshiping these extraterrestrial gods. And from my research, I would say that they're kind of like They're homonyms, so they put on their pants one leg at a time, just like me and you. But they may just be a lot bigger and have much higher levels of consciousness and advanced technology. But I think that they're exactly like us, because even they know that there's a God, because in one of the tablets, they even said that maybe the God of all has ordained this to happen. And that's when we had one of the flood stories, because there were more than one great flood on earth. And they acknowledge maybe it was the will of the God of all. So even they themselves, who are the gods that we worship, acknowledge that there is a higher consciousness that has created this planet. And that is the reason, my friend, we have so much polarization on earth, because they did it to be venerated as gods so that they could just live like lords. And that's a good one. The word Lord, what people doesn't realize, is just a title. And to prove my point, we have something called the House of Lords, right? Then you have people that have the title Lord. So a famous guy in the UK is called Alan Sugar, and he was knighted. Well, he was given a peerage, so he's Lord Sugar now, right? And we have the word Lord in the Bible. But what people don't understand is that these Anunnaki gods put that title in these scriptures to elevate themselves, to make them like God. But Lord is just like a title, like the Prime Minister of the United States, the President of Barbados. It's just a title, right? And what we do is we worship these people unknowingly, right? So there are people that unknowingly worship Joe Biden. There are people that worship freaking Liz Truss unknowingly. You know what I mean? Then you have other lords like Lord Dr. Fauci. Remember, there were songs, Dr. Fauci, give us vaccines. That's like worship. You know what I mean? I got my Fauci ouchie today. You know what I mean? All of these are the lords, right? Lords of the land. But they've self-anointed themselves to be the masters. Because Lord really just means master, right? It doesn't mean God. It means master. So, you know, they've even usurped us to use the word Lord, which means master, to worship these people unknowingly to be our gods. So this is the reason why we have such polarization, and because these Anunnaki gods, they feed off of our energy. Just like in the movie The Matrix, where we were the batteries. And the reason is that we have an incredible high level of energy inside of us. And we all human beings have what I call an aura field. And the aura field can go up to 10 feet away from your body. So this is why, like, when you meet a person for the first time, you can tell, hold on a minute, that person feels a bit off. Something strange with that person. That's because your auric field connected with theirs, and your auric field is telling you feedback. That is a person that you don't really want to spend time with, right?
Right. That's the thing about waves. I say that a lot. It's constructive and deconstructive interference. When you meet somebody that's on the same wave as you, that's constructive. And when it's not the same wave, it's deconstructive. So you and that person can't gel.
At all. So no matter what you do, you will never gel. And this is the thing, right? A lot of people, they need to start thinking in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Because Nikola Tesla said when humans start to think in these lines, along these lines, they will unlock the secrets to themselves and to the universe. And it's true, right? And this is why there is a systematic approach to lower our energy, because these entities are energy vampires. Exactly how the Matrix showed us. Well, this is what they're doing. They do it through all the blood sacrifices, so like circumcision for boys, even female genital mutilation. They do it with the wars. They do it with abortions. They do it, you know what I mean, with all the ritually slaughtered meat, halal meat, kosher meat. Every day we are giving these entities more power because they're energy vampires. They're parasites, right? But the thing is that they're very, very smart parasites because they know that if they oversuck the host, us will die. So they just want the host just fit enough to give energy, but not dead because there's no more energy. So the way they do it is that they have this very complicated and complex structure governing us, where they make us sick enough that we need to buy their pharmaceutical products, but not too sick that we would die and we'll stop giving them money, because money is a form of energy. It's a form of energy transfer, right? So people need to understand that everything is connected. It is not just religion or government and money. It is all the same dogma and cult mentality, just in different variations. Because socialism and communism are basically the same thing, just slight variations. Fascism and what's the next one? Communism, authoritarianism, the same thing, just like variations, right? So people get hooked up on the minutiae instead of looking at the big picture. And behind all of these isms, fascism, veganism, cultism, there's an entity, well, there's a group of entities, and behind them an entity that controls it all, which is what we call the hidden hand. And this is why we see that wars today are not meant to be won. They're meant to go on forever because they keep sucking the life source out of its people. Because what we're having right now is a transfer of wealth through this war in Ukraine, right? Everyone on the planet is paying for it through their pocket. Every single person has been affected. Sri Lanka just fell. We have the Middle East, people are rioting. We have people in Asia, like Bangladesh, you know what I mean, in the streets. You know what I mean? We're all paying for it, right? And they're just sitting at the top, just sucking it up. You know what I mean? And what we doing? Fighting amongst ourselves. You eat meat, so I don't like you. Well, you believe in abortion, so I don't like you. You worship Allah, I worship Jesus. You know what I mean? Well, it's all the same thing. The more we fight against one another, the more they keep enslaving us, and the more things get worse. And this is the issue that people don't get.
Man, and it's so difficult to engage with any of those people. I mean, I always rag, like, I like to rag on the carnivores a lot too. I like to rag on the vegans too.
It's all the same. It's all the same.
Yeah, and the reason why I like to rag on them is because it is the same thing. But you can tell, like, for example, you see somebody, I like to rag on these people too. You see somebody walking down the street, half of their hair is green and the other half is blue. You already know that they don't have any identity of their own, right? You already know that they are a part of a cult, right?
Absolutely.
So, like, I like to just rag on these people because they don't know what they don't know. They're not interested in finding out. Most of them aren't interested in finding out. And as somebody that, a part of my practice, I tap into my knowledge as a mental health practitioner. And what I have found is that the people who have anxiety and depression and stuff like that, those are self-centered people. They're all self-focused. And there's a lot of people that don't want to hear that, but they're all self-focused. They're not interested in undertaking bigger picture, solution-focused goals that aid society and other people around them. It's all about me, my anxiety, my depression, my BPD. That's what they sound like. They're just not interested in doing any better. They just want to feel better, get some instant gratification, and then stay exactly the same. And there's so many people out there that are just looking to do the same things in different ways, and they are complicit and compliant to the cult.
Yeah, because it's all about me, look at me. And I see this right now mostly with the women online. Now, we men, we have our issues, but I think that the women now are the best representation of how broken society is. And I hear me out, women, because for those that don't know much about me, I'm an online fitness trainer. So I use social media every day of my life for business. And what I see online is women just posting pictures of themselves. Now, again, yes, I do the same thing, but mine is for a purpose, because when you read, I don't put a post without a caption. First thing first, I never, ever, ever have a picture or a video without a caption, because there's more to me than just a picture or video. The caption is my way to communicate. But it's just these girls, because, and this is only an audio one, so people are not going to see, but they have their phone and they're turning their sides self like that, right? Just so that they can look at their bum, right? And it's like, okay, these girls that do this, from my own journey and from talking to many women through personal development, have identity issues, exactly what you were describing. A lot of them have father issues as well, right? A lot of them have self-belief and self-esteem issues as well. And a lot of women that would see these other women that look so good and would wish to have bodies like them don't realize that these women that are that fit are very broken inside, very lonely. And the men that they would like to have, they can never get, because a high-value man isn't going to go for a girl like that at all. Unless the caveat is that she's actually an entrepreneur, she's maybe a trainer or someone selling products, and then she has like a caption with it as well. So it's blatant that this is to drive leads. So that's the caveat. But if it's just, or they're OnlyFans girls, because I'll be honest with you, man.
Oh man, I was just about to jump in with that.
Girls that are OnlyFans, right? And like, the thing is, a woman can do whatever she wants. But from my research, girls that do this OnlyFans things or in the sex industry, again, I'm not looking down. You have to have a particular type of a character, because it ruins you internally, because you're not going to be able to have a proper relationship with a man, because your default setting is that men are just commodities and are there just to give you money. So you're not going to allow anyone into your life and be vulnerable with them. The men that you're going to allow are the men that are going to be narcissists, the men that are going to treat you bad, men that may actually physically abuse you, right? These are trends that you see in all of these interviews with women that are in the sex industry that I've watched. They all have the same exact story. Issues with self-identity, issues with their father, issues with self-esteem, issues with they either been sort of abused in some form or fashion, right? And then if they have none of that, they have an extremely large ego, extremely, that you and their ego can't fit into the same hole, right? And what happens now is that the ego feeds everything in their life. So there's no kindness, there's no compassion, there's no balance, right? It's all vanity. They worship themselves. Then they start to believe that their shit doesn't stink. They start to believe that they're greater than what they are. Because they have 1.8, 2 million followers and stuff, etc. Then they have no personality, right? They can't even carry on a proper conversation, right? I was listening to a podcast with this guy. I can't remember his last name, but you might know him. He's a black guy called Kevin something, and he gives a smack down to a lot of these women that don't they want to get high value men. Anyway, I think Kevin Saunders or something like that. Anyway, he was talking to these two OnlyFans girls, and he said, I'm trying to paraphrase, but it was along the lines like, okay, he said there's nothing wrong with being an OnlyFans girl, but he said to her, asked both of them, so what are you doing with this money? Oh, I'm saving for a house. He said, okay, that's fine. But how are you going to make your money work for you? What are you investing in? What is your 5-year plan, right? What do you want to stay in being an OnlyFans girl forever? And none of them could actually bring a concrete plan or say, well, I'm going to invest in crypto, stocks, I'm going to do bonds, I'm going to open a teleservice agency, you know what I mean? I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. For them, what they communicated is like, I'm living the life. I'm here. I can afford this Gucci, this Fendi, that. You know what I mean? My nails done, my hair. You know what I mean? And that was the way they communicated. And when he said to them, but listen, you're looking at a man who is an entrepreneur in being a businessman for more years than you have age on earth. And I'm asking you questions as an entrepreneur. Suppose I wanted to invest in you in terms of a business. Would I have confidence to invest in you? And the answer is no. I wouldn't do business with you, right? And they can't answer any sort of entrepreneurial questions. So you see then that it's all about the ego, the me, just give me, I want, look at me. And this is what's happening to the girls now. And then on the other side, you got the boys that are just sitting down in their freaking couches, wanking themselves over these girls, giving these girls their money, and they have such low testosterone, they couldn't even carry on a conversation with a woman that is not even a 9. You know what I mean? They wouldn't even know what to do. There's no chivalry. There's no self-confidence. Testosterone is at levels that are so low. They probably got a big belly. You know what I mean? Or they drink loads of this soya stuff and they just beta males. Then if they do get a woman, the woman they can get is going to be a very masculine lady, right? She's going to boss him around. So then again, you got even the roles reversed. You know what I mean? So the man is supposed to be the leader. He creates the environment for the woman to be vulnerable. The woman teaches the man how to feel, how to have emotions, compassion, kindness, and empathy. And the man teaches the woman how to have self-belief, how to be strong, how to overcome fears, traumas, and just overall have to think logically and not only emotionally. So the two energies complement each other. But now we have the energies flipping. So the men now trying to be the emotional ones and the women trying to be the logical ones. But that's not natural biology. And that is another way that these Anunnaki gods have separated us and flipped the script on us and have us even more divided, which is why the world is disintegrating so fast. And it is just total shame to see, like, we've fallen so far that there's so much open space between truth and where we are now that it's almost impossible to see, my friend.
Man, yeah, that is spot on. I feel like Ralphie, I'm in danger. That's exactly how I feel. Pick my nose. I'm in danger. Oh man, things are so. You know, it's tough to say this because, believe it or not, I see a positive future, but it depends on the kind of work that I do now with the time that I have on this planet and the work that so many other people are doing. It depends on that and how well that takes for any kind of positive future for the planet to really come to be. And it's, you know, it can seem sometimes like there are not enough people doing this work, but the more I do it, the more I realize there's a lot more out there than you think. And then you look around at the outside and you say, well, it doesn't appear to be making a dent. But I think that is a part of the illusion as well. The illusion of television and those kinds of things that
television.
Yep. Make you believe that things are worse than they are, you know, and there's a certain group of people that believe in that shit. And I think that the margin for people to come to, let's call it our side, is opening up and it is growing. So I think that there's a lot of positive things that will happen soon. I think as well that we just got to know when to shift certain people, because there's a lot, like you said, you could tell a person's values or lack thereof just by looking at them or what they say, and it's almost like you have to live in a bubble.
Dude, it's mad. Like, for me right now, the most complicated thing on earth is dating, because I have to, like, ask in a very not so intrusive with job status. And that tells me literally, do I even want to talk with you again? Because 9 out of 10 people that are jabbed cannot have a conversation with me. Not that I think I'm better, but the things that I want to talk about don't resonate with them. I want to talk with people that, push the things that I talk about, push in the sense of like, force me to come and like provide evidence. Which book I get that from? All right, Todd, let me get back to you. I'm going to read that book and have a conversation with you. Like, what I do now is when he's screening girls, I ask them straight, do you read books? And my sister told me this about 3 years ago. She said, Todd, I'll be honest with you, Todd, you have to ask these girls if they read books. Because she says, clearly, Todd, you can't date a girl unless she reads books. Or she's open to reading books, right? And dude, I will not forget, I recently asked a girl, so do you read books? If so, what's the name of the last book you read? Because I read about 2 books a month, so I'm always looking for new books. And her reply was no reply. I've never heard from her ever again. It's mad, right?
It's true. It's true.
And there's this common, and I think we said this in private message as well, is like this repeat pattern with people that you meet where job status, lack of integrity, low self-esteem, block you or stop talking to you. Job status, low self-esteem, full of ego, stop talking to you. Job status, low self-esteem, narcissistic. It's like this cycle that I meet with all people. Is mad. This is why I feel like it's taking crazy pills.
It is
right?
absolutely true. And I mean, it is the average person. And you can tell, it's like I could keep saying all the time, the people who are jabbed, the people who have some kind of a social label, anxiety, depression, bipolar, whatever it is, it's all about them. They rank high on the narcissistic personality index. And they have voids within them, and they're just looking to fill those voids, and they're not looking to actually grow themselves and maximize their potential whatsoever. And you can tell it has become so easy to just look at somebody in their eyes and you see that there's nobody home. They're soulless. Yeah. And the things that they say,
this is why I talk about Christ a lot. And the reason is that for those that don't understand, the word Christ just means the anointed one. It means the one or the illuminated one, right? And he said, greater things shall ye do. And Christ is not just one person. All of us become the Christ, the illuminated one, the anointed one. We have even Buddha, you could say, was a Christ because he became the Buddha that he regenerated himself. Krishna, he spoke about Krishna consciousness in the Bhagavad Gita. And the reason why I never use the word Jesus is because the word Jesus or the character, so let me sort of get this word just correct. Jesus, in the way we use Jesus, never existed. Jesus is a modern day construct. Now I'm going to get the Christians to hold on a minute. Hear me out. Jesus was never called Jesus because in Hebrew, the letter J never existed until modern times. His name was called Yehoshua or Yeshua or Yeshua. And the name basically ended up transforming over many, many different years. This name and spelling was translated from language to language, which filtered down to what we have called Jesus. So that's why, firstly, I never, ever use the word Jesus. And when people say there's power in Jesus, they're lying. They don't know, because Jesus came from Jesus, which was also one of the names that Enlil went by, but that's another story. And so there were 4 steps from what I researched, what I found, that ended up going from Yeshua or Yehoshua, and it took about 1,600 years to evolve. So the Hebrew originally was called Yahushua, and what they did is that they removed the H and the W. So originally it was abbreviated as in capital Y, capital H, capital W, apostrophe, and then Shua, S-H-U-A. And then the H, the capital H and the W were removed in Aramaic, right? So it was just Yeshua. Then in the Hebrew and Arabic names of Yeshua was transliterated into Greek, called Eseus, I-E-S-O-U-S. From Greek to Latin, instead of Eseus, it went to Esus, I-E-S-U-S. And in 1612, the King James Bible has this spelling. And then it was after the modernization of English, and then also the splitting of the Y into two vowels, the J and the Y, the J and the I, sorry, in Hebrew, that we get the word Jesus. So this is why a lot of people, they don't know the history. This is why I said in the beginning that our history dictates our present. And people that are Christians use the word Jesus, not realizing that the word Jesus really means Hail Zeus. Zeus was Enlil. So again, they're worshiping an extraterrestrial god. So all we're doing is giving our powers to these gods that are just enslaving us and keeping us, our minds held and bound. And this is why we can't, we are so dumbed down and stupid now, right? So this is why, so to clarify, the consonant form of J was not known in the 14th century. Therefore, the both J and I used to be the Y sound, as in the word yes. So in Greek, Eseus was pronounced Jesus. And then in Latin, Isus, and you will pronounce it as Jesus with a Y. And then in the 18th century, the letters J and I were split into a consonant and a vowel. And J was adopted, and the consonant letter is what we have now, which is closer to the modern Y. So this is why Jerusalem was called Jerusalem. Jacob was called Jacob. Job was called Job, right? So the J, so that is the reason why the letter was chosen in the translation to Jesus. Therefore, the character we call Jesus never existed, which is just one of the lies injected into religion to take us away further from the truth that Yehoshua, who was an ascended master, who became the Christ, came here, he reincarnated here to teach us how to get back to source. Because this is why he never actually took anything for himself. He always used to say that the Father in me, through the Father, right? I and my Father are one, right? You know, and I'm going to show people something that a lot of the pastors can tell them, where they can actually see this in and this is in the book of John as well, right? So again, I'm going to give you the receipts. And because this is going to be an audio podcast, you can listen back, take down all the stories I gave you, and go and look for yourself. Because don't believe me, look for yourself. Because truth isn't learned, truth is realized. So when you look at the high priestly prayer, right? And you can, this is in John, and you can actually, he always, so let me first thing before I say that, Christ's most powerful words were spoken through the I am. So this is why I always say in my videos on my social media, the mighty I am in you. And if people want to learn more, I suggest to check out the I am discourses from Saint Germain through Geoffrey Ray King, the Magic Presence, and the Unveiled Mysteries. This will teach you a lot of the I am. And this is why when I say the things that I'm going to say now, it will make more sense, because the I am is the God in you. The I am is the Christ. It is through the I am that you connect to source, which also is connected to the subconscious mind, which is what you said, is really the mind of God. The subconscious mind is your creative power, is what dictates at least 90 to 95% of your entire life. All your actions, your reactions, your thoughts, beliefs, everything comes from your subconscious mind, which is why it's important to connect to it and to fill yourself with the light of source, God, whatever word you want to use, universal consciousness. So like I said, this is why Christ always uses to use his most powerful statements were said through the I am. I am the way, I am the truth, I am the way, the truth, and the life. He also said, I am the resurrection and the life. Now, by using the power, speaking through the I am, he was communicating through his God self, which is one which each and all of us can also do, but this comes from mastering our thoughts and feelings. This is why if you want to be able to read the Bible and these religious texts, you need to have the decryption keys in order to be able to decrypt the information, because the information is protected. A bit like how you have cryptocurrency, which allows you to send value over the internet, because the value is encrypted, and the person on the other side, when they have it, they have to decrypt their wallet with their password, which is decryption keys, to receive it, right? So the exact same principle. So one key to understand Christ is to read the book of John, which has most of Christ's words than any book. And one chapter in particular is chapter 17, known as the high priestly prayer, which is the clearest text that shows that the Son of Man, which is all of us, and are one with God, just like he is one with us. Slight tangent here. Thoth, the Atlantean, even he said that he was the Son of Man. So when Christ actually went to Egypt to study, Christ came after Thoth. So it shows that this information is very, very old, right? It existed for a very, very long time. So there's nothing new under the sun. So let us look at chapter 17, verse 17. It says, sanctify them in truth. Your word is truth. As you sent me into the world, so I have sent them into the world. Us. He sent us. I sent them into the world. And for their sake, I consecrate myself, that they also be sanctified in truth. I do not ask for these only, but also for those who believe in me through their word, that they, us, be one. And just as you, Father, are in me. Let me say that again. That they may all be one, just as you, Father, are in me, and I am in you, that they also be in us. So again, you see, he's saying that he is in the Father and that we join with him and the Father together. So you don't worship the character Jesus, right? Let's go on. So that the world may believe that you have sent me, the glory that you have given me, I have given to them, given to us, that they be one as we are one, I in them and you in me, that they may become perfectly one, so that the world may know that you've sent me and love them even as you have loved me. So, as you can see, Christ is actually saying that, well, basically, he and us are homies, and we can just be like him. And when we join through him, the anointed one, the illuminated one, we get consciousness, we join to the Father, and we become part of God. I mean, we are, but we've just forgotten. So we take away the veil of perception, of separation, and we become one. This is why I say that we are all God, because you can't join with something if you are not already that thing, right? You know, you take a cup and you go to the beach and you take out some of the water. The water in that cup is still the ocean. It has the exact same percentage of salt, the exact same pollutants or plastics or whatever you see at this time, exactly the same way. So you can't separate from something that you already are. It's just that we and the water in the cup have forgotten that we are actually God. And the cup, the body, is what's separating us from remembering. But if you put that cup of water back in the ocean, you think that it can forget that It didn't come from there. It can get mixed back up all the same way. So this is what a lot of people fail to understand, right? Because right now, brother, what we're going through is prophetic times. And there's something called the great sign in heaven. So as you can see from Christ's own words, not my words, not Jehan's words, Christ's words, right? You can see that we must glorify the God and the I am presence in us in order to transcend the flesh, which is what holds us back because time is awfully short. Now, more receipts for you. Revelation 12 talks about the great sign in heaven, which is a star alignment which occurred on September the 23rd, 2017. This talks and mentions about 1,260 days or 3.5 years, which was in March 2021. Now, that means that at that time, we were halfway through the 7 years of tribulation, and we are now in the second half of the tribulation, right? This is why things are just ramping up ridiculously fast. And this is why the Cabal, the Anunnaki, and all of their cohorts have been working hard to push this jab because they know that the time is approaching. Now, there's more to this coronavirus that people really understand. Corona means crown in Spanish and Portuguese, and is the seventh chakra, and is what connects you to God, source, universal consciousness. So the virus itself was designed to attack your crown chakra, with a virus in order to sever the last remaining connection with God and stop you from becoming the Christ. Because what's happening now is that people are being activated by the extra energy coming into the earth. So people are waking up, for lack of a better word. People are realizing, hold on a minute, the system is a fraud. What I used to believe is all BS. You know what I mean? I was a terrible person, and they're having like these identity crises, right? So the whole virus thing was designed to try to stop you from illuminating, for you to become the great majestic being that you already are, that you just forgot, right? So the other part was is with the mask. The mask was there to attack your fifth chakra, which is responsible for your divine truth, or basically your emotions, your ability to express your emotions, thoughts, and feelings. So it was key in breaking the last human trait of empathy, because everyone now is your enemy and can potentially kill you. And think about it. When you wear a mask, you're not able to really communicate with people. You can't see facial expression of people. You can't know, well, is the person happy, sad? You know, it cuts the human connection, right? So the agenda is to divide us so that it's mother against daughter, father against son, husband against wife, and brother against sister, which allows them to keep us distracted while they work behind the scenes to make government the God. This is why the next stage in what's to come is going to be to crash the economy and to bring in universal basic income, which will be attached to your job status and what you say on social media, so it turns into a social credit score, right? This is why scripture says that a house divided against itself shall surely fall. Now, this great sign in heaven was also confirmed, believe it or not, by the Archbishop Vaticano of the Catholic Church in October 2020, and spoke about something called the deep church, and how there's a negative energy and a negative element in the Catholic Church, which he called the deep church, working with the deep state in order to bring in the new world order, right? Now, as you can see, there's much that has been hidden from us, which is why we're very confused. We believe in government and authority, and we're heavily polarized as a people, which is by design. The key to overcome the next few years of this tribulation is to start to heal ourselves, which is a multi-pronged approach of going internally to forgive yourself so that you can forgive others. Heal your fears and traumas, and read books in order to learn more about who you are, what you are, and where you come from. And this will allow you to find your God power in you, the mighty I am presence that is really God in you, because time is awfully short And it is imperative that we start to do this difficult work because the power is narrow and few find it, And that is basically the whole agenda behind the last, it's almost 4 years now, almost, So, yeah, January, I think, is the first time we heard probably the coronavirus. Wow, imagine that. So, 2019. No, 2020. So it's 3 years, sorry. Actually, 2023. Yeah. It started in November. Yeah, 2019. So yeah, it's basically 4 years. So you see, people, this is why everything is so confusing. Nothing makes sense. And it's designed to not make sense because it's designed to make us fight against one another. I eat meat, so you're a bad person because you eat only plants. I believe in Allah, you believe in Jesus, so you're a bad person. I believe in abortion and you don't, so you're also a terrible human being. You know what I mean? Girls can, be boys and boys can be girls, and because you don't think otherwise, you're a bigot. You know what I mean? The Republicans against the Democrats, Lib against conservative, it's the same thing, right? We need to start realizing that these cults that we're in is literally causing us to self-sabotage and self-sabotage against ourselves. And then when we self-sabotage against ourselves, we actually do harm to our fellow brothers and sisters. Because there's one thing people can't fail to understand. You can't give someone something that you don't already have. And if you don't have love for yourself, how can you give love to another human being? It is impossible. If I've got 500 pounds on me, how I can give you that 500 pounds because I already have it in my pocket. But if I don't have 500 pounds sterling, I can't give it to you. It's just that simple. We understand though that law, that natural law, but we don't understand it when it comes to love and forgiving ourselves and being compassionate and kind, forgiving others. But because we treat ourselves so badly, and talk so negatively about ourselves, that is the reason why we continue this cultish mentality and this cult mindset, because the cult is a religion, and the religion holds and binds the minds of its followers. And we need to start to do this work, because I do agree with you. There are a lot more people out there than I have realized, because since I started doing podcasts now, I realized that there's a lot more. The silent majority is actually a lot bigger than they want us to believe, and they're actually in a minority, which is why they use censorship, right? And they use television to lie to us, to make us think that the world is as bad as it is. And yes, I do think the world has lots of problems, but I don't think it's as bad as they say it is. I think that there's a lot of hope and belief, and this is what I said to my mother, and another person asked me in a previous podcast. I actually do believe that we're going to have a very, very positive outcome. And the reason why I say that is because the emperor has no clothes. All truth is out there right now. Like, if I could find all this information, you could find it, Jehan. It means that the average person could find it. They have one of the most powerful computers ever known to man right in their hands. Instead of freaking wanking themselves over OnlyFans girls and just taking black pictures and posting on social media and just worshiping themselves, use that technology and go and start reading books. You know what I mean? Listen to audiobooks. Look at some of the things that I said in these scriptures and see for yourself, because you've got a computer that's much more powerful than the computers that supposedly took us to the moon when it was during the Cold War, in the 60s it was, I think. The computer in your phone, in your hand, is more powerful than that. So think about that, right? You have access now to so much information. Use it. Instead of wanking yourself in your corner room, freaking feeling sorry for yourself and taking all these black pics, start to do the work on yourself, because time is awfully short.
Man, there's nothing else that we can say about this topic. Where can people find you?
So people can find me on Facebook or Instagram. I talk about these things not in as much detail because I am a fitness trainer, and I help spiritually inclined people burn fat and build muscle. And I give the short form versions in my walk and talk videos and my posts on these things. And so those are just like teasers, but very, very well written and communicated to deliver points very quickly. Because I focus on all three parts of the human being, which is the mind, the body, and the spirit. I will teach and coach you how to get fit, and I will also help you improve your mindset, because we know that in order to get fit, you have to create new habits, you have to make certain sacrifices, and you actually create new neurons in the brain. And we know that neurons that fire together, wire together. So what I do then now is that I would introduce things to you like meditation, give you books to read, and yes, design wicked fitness programs for you that will, get you in the best shape of your life. Jehan can tell you that some of the stuff that I've told him to do has yielded great results, and so I help people, spiritually inclined people, burn fat and build muscle. So you can find me on Instagram at Adriano_246 or Facebook, my name, Todd Cave, TODDCAVE. And if you have any questions with some of the things I said today, because today I went into a little bit of detail and I gave you all some receipts that you can go and read for yourselves, because I believe that, you must show people where to go and find things for themselves, because I can't teach you. Only you can teach yourself, right? And when you start to read and do research, you start to see that what they've been telling us is a lot of BS. The narrative doesn't make sense. And the stuff that they say is fiction makes a hell of a lot more sense than what they're telling us, because I often say that truth is stranger than fiction. And a detective would, or Sherlock Holmes used to say, you remove everything that is definitely not the truth, and what you're left with is a high probability of truth. And then from there, truth gets confirmed through different sources, mediums, etc., etc. So this is why I have such high confidence in the things that I speak about, because I've had confirmation after confirmation after confirmation. We just have to say, okay, well, until I can see find information that disproves what has been confirmed, this has to be the truth. And this is why truth is called the truth, because it's been confirmed. And truth isn't learned, truth is realized. So again, if people want to reach out to me, you're interested in getting into the best shape of your life, learning some of these things that I teach and spoke about on this podcast today, contact me at Adriano_246 or Todd Cave at Facebook, and look forward to answering any questions and helping people become their best self, because unless we help each other, we are just a house that's divided amongst itself, and we will surely fall. And make no joke about it, people, we will have a zombie apocalypse, and you will have to be in physically good shape in order to defend your family. And this can sound mad, but the food in your fridge, because when the zombies lose everything and they're hungry, they're going to try to break into your house to steal your food. They're not even going to try to come and take your money or take anything of value. They can just want food. And you can be able, you can need to be able to defend your family and yourself for, to stop your food being stolen, right? So come work with me. Let me get you fit, improve your mindset, and, help you create new possibilities and live your best life, because time is awfully short.
Todd, thanks for being on the Boundless Authenticity Podcast.
My pleasure, my friend. Anytime.
If you liked today's episode about the cult of religion, please leave a like and a comment below. Also, subscribe to the channel, because this also helps it to grow and to be recommended in the algorithms.